Good morning, everybody. I hope you're having a good day so far. So, today I wanted to talk about mirrors and how they have a mystique about them and their use in our history and part of their supernatural contributions to our lives and where that kind of came from. I don't know if you've ever encountered a mirror that was more than just a mirror. You know, you see mirrors all the time. You go to a restaurant, you go to the washroom, there's a mirror in there. You go, in your home, in school, in a store, wherever you are, there's going to be a mirror. And some of them definitely seem like there's more going on. Now, I know that there's some that are two-way mirrors that they say, I read you can put your finger up to it, and if there's not a space, I think, is that what it is? Not a space, then it's a two-way mirror. Something about that. But I'm talking today not about how people misuse them in bad ways, but how we use them every day and how maybe spirits use them. And I mean, the most notorious mirror, I think, is the mirror from Snow White. The mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest one of all? We all remember that. But I feel like the fascination and the connection we had, or we have, with mirrors goes much farther than that. And I was doing a little reading about it, and it said, you know how we have the superstition that if you break a mirror, it's 7 years bad luck? It seems to be that they believe that that came from the Roman times. And the Romans believed that it took 7 years for a soul to renew, whatever that means. I mean, if you die, it takes 7 years before you can come back. Or maybe if something bad happens, it takes 7 years to recover from it. I'm not really sure what that means, but they were saying that if the mirror broke, it was basically saying that that person was going to die and that it would take, or something bad would befall them, and it would take 7 years for the soul to recover from that. And one of the remedies was to dig very deep in the ground and bury the pieces of the mirror. And before we had mirrors, people used water as a reflective surface. And if they looked in the water and their face was distorted by the water, then they took that as an omen to mean that something bad was going to happen to whoever the looker was into the water. And I would assume that this would be in something, not just a river or a lake where the water is going to move, but maybe like a scrying mirror and taking some water into a bowl or a plate or even a cup or chalice and then staring at the reflection. It is mesmerizing to scry. Scrying is looking into a dark, I mean, a crystal ball is for scrying too. You can do that, but the crystal, the light, the clear ball that we're all familiar with, it's not so reflective. It's very difficult to see anything in there. But if you do scrying in a black mirror or a blacked out mirror or even a black plate with water in it, you definitely get a better, I don't want to say reaction, but you definitely get a better interaction with it than you would with a clear crystal ball. I have a crystal ball and I've tried many times to look into it, but I find that it's great for meditating. It's great for sort of focusing your breath and focusing your thought process in that way, but it's not so great for seeing images. And I know that I've been places where a mirror has definitely seemed more than what it was. I mean, if we look at Alice in Wonderland and the second edition, or not the edition, but the second book, Through the Looking Glass, I don't know if that's where the idea of mirrors becoming a portal would be, but I definitely think that there are some mirrors that have the ability to allow something through it. There are traditions where when somebody dies in the family, they cover the mirrors because the superstition is that other deceased souls will try to come out of the mirror and take over a living body, or they may find themselves lost in the mirror. My mom used to have this really unique mirror, and I don't know what happened to it. It must have, maybe she sold it or something. I don't know, but in one of the moves, it didn't make it to the next place. But I was always fascinated by that mirror. And it was a kind of shaped like a, well, it's sort of rectangular, but it kind of always made me feel more like an emerald cut. And I don't know what it was, but I would find myself able to stare into that mirror forever and kind of get lost in it. It never made me feel like it was a portal or anything, but it definitely made me feel like it was for scrying. It was for divining and for making that kind of spirit connection. It definitely did that, and I would love to still have it around because I would have it in my house, but I don't know where it is now. But anyway, that's another story. I also have a friend who had a mirror in her home, and she always felt like it seemed to be a portal, and a lot of strange things were happening around it and in her home. And she asked me to come look at it one time. And so I did, and I had never seen this mirror before. And when I looked at it, it really made me feel as if it wasn't a solid thing. It made me feel as if it was fluid inside. You know when you're driving on a hot day and you look down the road and you can see the heat waves sort of distorted in front of you? And this is what the mirror looked like to me. It looked as if it was distorted and it was shifting as you looked in it. And it really made me feel that there was a lot of energy around it. I felt as if we weren't alone looking at it. So if there was ever any mirror that I thought was a portal, that was the mirror that I thought was a portal. And I know that there was a lot of activity in her home at that time. And when they moved the mirror out of the bedroom, it seemed to subside. I think we've always been fascinated by mirrors, even in the days before mirrors were invented and they would use any reflective surface. It's a sort of, well, now it's different because we have cameras and we take selfies and all of those things. But I think before that, it was almost as if it was something rare to see yourself, because unless you had a painting done or you had, that would be the only way really you could really see yourself, unless you had a reflective surface to look into. And I know that there's even something about our eyes. If you are looking into someone else's eyes, and I mean really intimately looking in someone's eyes, it's a very connecting activity, and it's a very emotional activity. I did a training a couple of years ago for a kids yoga instructor, and it was a wonderful group of women that were doing this course. It was a 3-day course, and a few of my friends were there, and even my husband's cousin. We didn't realize we were both going, but she was there as well. And I can't remember how many of us there were, maybe 15. And one of the exercises that we had to do was we had to stand in one circle facing out and one circle facing in towards each other. And what we did was we took 1 minute each person, and we would shift from one person to another, and we would stare into that person's eyes for 1 minute. That sounds like an easy thing to do. We're not used to doing that. We're not used to staring people in the eye for that long. It was, at first, it felt silly. It felt weird to be staring at somebody that you don't know. I only knew 4 of the people with my husband's cousin there. But I didn't know anybody else. And so staring into their eyes for that long, that intimate, after the first one or two, it became extremely emotional. And we were all in tears by the end of it. And it's really funny too, because when my friend, she was the one that convinced me to do this. She had done it before. And she said, oh, you're going to love this course. She's like, there's these women there. They get so emotional. And I said, yeah, right. I'm not going to be like that. I'm not going to be one of those women that goes to these places and cries my eyes out. I cried the entire weekend. I cried. It was such an emotional journey that we were on. And it was within the year. Well, my mom had passed in the October, and this was the next August. So 10 months since my mom had passed. And it was so cathartic, and it was so healing. And one of the other exercises that we did, which doesn't have anything to do with reflection or mirrors or anything like that, but it was really empowering, and it was really emotional, was people lined on either side, and you would walk in between, and they would send love to each person that walked down the middle. And it was such an incredible feeling. It was just overwhelming with the love that you felt as you walked, as you were the one that walked down the middle, and as you were on the side sending love to that person who was walking. It was such an amazing experience. And I remember, I'm not sure if I mentioned this on here before or not, but there we were learning all these different games for yoga play. And one of them was, we had to go into small groups, and one of us would have a scarf, and we would be the leader of the dance, and the other people would have to copy us. These are all games to play with kids, but clearly it's very fun for adults as well. And so as we were doing it, we were having so much fun, and I was laughing, and we're all dancing, and across the room, through the people, I saw my mom. I saw her standing there laughing, smiling, so happy. And I just burst into tears. One of the many times that weekend. It really was, I think that had probably been the first time since she had passed where I really laughed. And I really just had so much fun, and to see her there, to see that glimpse of her through the crowd, it really touched me. Like, even now, just thinking about it brings me back to how touched I was. And anyways, that experience of looking into somebody's eyes, it's incredible. If you ever get a chance to try that with a group of people who are in a positive mindset and who do this with love, you'll really enjoy it. And it'll really bring up a lot of things. It's not, when things come up, it's not always enjoyable, but there's a reason for that, and it brings out things that need to be brought to the surface. Anyway, so back to the story of mirrors, but that's where I'm going with that. The reflection. So reflectiveness in somebody else's eyes. And then the mirror. Yeah, I want to know what you think. What do you think about what mirrors are and if they are portals or connection to spirits, or do they hold spirits in them? What do you think? So, anyways, I hope you all have a great day. And I'm sorry I went off on a tangent there, but it really was an amazing experience. And if you ever wanted to do that program, it's called Rainbow Kids Yoga, and it's really incredible. And the woman that ran it is just such a loving soul. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. So, have a great day, everybody. Take care, and we'll talk again soon.